grandmother who talks a lot about the past. And one of her recurring topics is the atrocities they had to suffer through in the communist era. And he told us many unbelievable stories. Unbelievable in the sense that from those stories we could get a glimpse at how exposed and naked people were back then. One of the salient stories, for me at least, for some reason, is about an evening when the family was going home in a wagon from work on the fields, and they were stopped on the road by two Russian soldiers, and these soldiers took away the horses, two black horses, and these horses were the best friends of my great-grandfather, my third father, and he was so devastated that he ran after the soldiers when they went away with the horses. Of course the family stopped him because he was playing with his life by running after them, but he was so devastated that my grandmother always mentions when she relates or she talks about the story how sad his face looked for a period of time. He cared so much for those horses. And my grandfather lost not only his best friends but also his son, at least for a period of time when he was taken away. My grand-uncle was taken away to a labor camp somewhere in Russia, and for 2.5 years no one knew if he was alive or dead. And in the end, when he came home, he was emaciated, and he told the family how delicious the flesh of a cat tastes, because they had to eat everything they found around the camp. They didn't get proper food, enough food, so they ate stray cats and stray dogs, rats and raw potatoes and things like that. Now, imagine my grand-uncle, who was in his early 20s, I think he was 21 when he got home from this labor camp. Imagine this young person meeting with the youngsters of today. Imagine him meeting with boys and girls all decked up as they usually are nowadays, and whining about how selfish their friends are and unanswered messages. Imagine these people confronting my grand-uncle, who nurse their grievances, of the occasional fuzzy head in front of them in the cinema, or who are offended by not being invited to the party last night. Or imagine him meeting with YouTube users who are hung up on the ratings and the comments, and do videos about the problems of ratings and comments, or with meeting with people who are angry because of not finding parking spaces, and so on and so on. It's not a fair comparison, of course, because my grand uncle and these people I mentioned come from very different circumstances. But this is the point I would like to highlight, that what counts as a problem is very contingent on the circumstances. I don't think my grand uncle would have been offended by those things that people are offended by today in his early 20s. So clearly there is a proportion between the grievances and the current general state of affairs, and there can be vast differences across different circumstances as to what counts as an inconvenience or problem. When everything is all right or okay or relatively calm, sensitivity sharpens, or sensitivity is honed to that placidity, and the smallest ripple on that calm surface could trigger disturbing repercussions easily, because sensitivity adapts to the texture and or the general ambience of the situation or the circumstances, and emotion is measured and elicited according to the intensity of that ambience or the intensity of the circumstances. Think of a parent who is high-strung with his child and who is always complaining when the child gets home in dirty pants, and he's angry or she is angry because of the clothes, and she behaves or he behaves, the parent behaves as if the child was for the clothes and not the other way around, that the clothes is for the child, clothes are for the child. But of course, if the child would disappear for a day, say for a day, the scales would shift and the set of potential problems, what counts as a problem, would become different. And when the child would get home again, all tattered and torn and dirty, that wouldn't be a problem anymore. The clothes would become secondary immediately. The main importance would be that the child is